And I want to encourage you, once a month, we go out to the corner of Franklin and Montana, the east side of Flint, an area where drug use, alcoholism, prostitution is rampant. We go out there, we serve a hot meal out there. They're out there every Tuesday. The church sponsors one of those a month. We give blankets and coats and hot food to the people in that neighborhood. And I tell you what, it really affects the children that are out there. There are some children that are caught in the crosshairs. It's not their fault that their mother or father chose that kind of lifestyle. And to see them so excited to get a new shirt, a new coat, hot food. I mean, there are kids that are excited about sloppy joes. And if Angie said we were having sloppy joes for dinner tonight, I would not be excited about that. And here are these people, they're just so grateful that people go out there. And we stand out there, rain, snow, sleet, shine, every month out there. We'd love to have you come out there and be a part of that, and be a part of that community out there. But Michael and I were having this conversation, and I was kind of sharing what God had been talking to me, and he really snapped some of this into focus. So a part of this sermon today really comes from the conversation I had with Michael, and he gave me some ideas, and I want to roll this out for you. We are a church that I believe, a church that needs to become a discipling church, where we disciple disciples that make disciples. So we want to bring people in, we want to get them plugged into a group, we want to encourage each other. You know that saying that Proverbs says, as iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another, so does one Christian sharpen another. We want to get people plugged in. This is about spiritual growth, about someone pushing and challenging us to be more like Jesus in our lives. Because we can be Christians. We can come here, we can meet every Sunday. We can be happy to see each other. We can smile. But what are we doing to serve the kingdom? What are we doing to do the things that Jesus did in our life, the sacrifices that he made? These groups are going to be a way for us to develop friendships, Christian friendships, strong Christian friendships, to be real and authentic about the problems that we're having. We don't play church here, folks. If you're visiting our church, we're not playing church. If you come there, I'm going to tell you about things that I struggled with. I'm going to tell you about things that I struggle with. I'll tell you what, I'm sorry, I hope this doesn't hurt Jeremy, use it as an example. At the men's discipleship group, Jeremy shared part of his testimony with us, extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. There was 3 teenagers there, they were completely zoned into every word that he was saying. Because he was being real. He was being authentic. He was talking about the struggles of his past and what it meant for him to go to church and to have an encounter with Christ and what had become authentic and the things that helped him out. And that was really, really powerful. And that's what the goal of these discipleship groups are going to be. It's about real people, real life people, flawed people trying to serve Christ together. We're not putting up any pretense. We're not coming in here and saying, okay, we're good church folk. We come here every Sunday. You know, we wear collared shirts on Sunday, and I got jeans on today, but you know, we dress for church, and no, it's about real people having an authentic relationship with God. So that means there's going to be flaws. That means there's going to be mistakes. There are going to be people that stumble. There are going to be people that fall. There are going to be people that are hurt. There are going to be people that are depressed. There are going to be people that talk about addictions in these groups. And it's our job to sharpen each other, to help each other out, to give each other strength, to create some accountability, to develop a relationship where I feel comfortable enough where, you know, if Kim and I are in discipleship, I go to Kim and say, Kim, I'm really struggling with, can you pray for me? Can you help me? You know, these kinds of ideas. So my goal, and I hope it's the church's goal, my spiritual goal for the church is to launch 12 discipleship groups. And so we already have launched a few of them, and I kind of want to go through this. So 2 years ago, a little short of 2 years ago, I got this calling from God about how important discipleship was. We went to conference at Encounter Church, and my parents were there, and there was a gentleman speaking about that, and I just really felt that that's where God was moving us. So went to the board, we launched a discipleship group, the men's discipleship group. Michael Ross, Michael Sharber, Dennis Yeager, and myself were part of that group. And during that time that we've launched that group, 2 of them have started on the course to being pastors. 2 of them are heavily involved in the church leadership. We've had all kinds of, and all 4 of us have been involved in various areas of the church, volunteering and helping and buying in and being regular, being present and praying for people, opportunities of doing ministry with people outside of the church. We've had some really exciting things happened from this first group. And so now Michael Sharber, he might be going full-time to Encounter Church and be there. He's under an internship right now. That might end up becoming something that's full-time. So maybe we've sent him out, which is not new to our church. Our church has done that in the past, right? How many young pastors and missionaries and leaders have we trained that have gone out? So that's fine. Michael Ross started doing the men's group. He has launched a Bible study that's really turned into a discipleship format, where we're there strengthening each other and sharing. We've got teenagers, we have adults, and it's great. I mean, it's hard to get a word in edgewise with me and Cecil and Michael and Pat, but the teenagers even found a way to speak in the class, and it was really powerful last week. That was really great. So the first group, we think of that as D1, the men's group, D2. Angie is getting ready to launch 2 women's discipleship groups. We're calling these D3 and D4. They're going from the same material. I'll have to pick up material. It's great material. Went through it from the other side, from the man's perspective. This is a woman at heart, God's heart. It's really good stuff. Really excited about seeing how that's going to go with those 2 groups. And then on Sunday mornings, that's D3 and D4. On Sunday mornings, the teens are learning how to lead and teach themselves. In the past, we had big youth groups, and a lot of those people who have graduated, we've lost them. They're not coming to church on a regular basis. So we're trying to prepare this group to be self-contained so that when they graduate, that they can naturally take over and lead their own group. And so that's D5. And so I was looking for launching another, probably men's discipleship group. We've already had one and kind of one spin-off from that. And I'm hoping that in each of those groups, someone will want to take and start and lead their own group for each one of those groups. And if we get 6 in each one of those spin-off a group, we'll have 12. And I'm hoping in 2 years we can have 12 discipleship groups. Just like Jesus had 12 disciples, our church have 12 discipleship groups. And in doing so, you don't have to come and say, okay, well, I want to be part of a discipleship group and I want to lead my own class. We're just looking for people to come in that want to be real and authentic, that want to, it's not just a Bible study. We're not just talking about studying the Word of God. We're talking about building relationships, building friendships. Maybe you have some food at your group. Maybe you talk about your week. You talk about the things that you're going through in life. You pray together. You strengthen each other up. You're there for each other. Someone that you can call when you're feeling blue. Someone that's in the trenches, that are in the battle with you. And we're hoping to roll that out. Now, we're not trying to just look at all of our existing ministries and say, okay, well, some of the sound guys are teaching other sound guys how to be sound guys. That's the discipleship group. We're talking about intentionally meeting, intentionally Bible study, intentionally trying to serve Jesus together. We're not trying to look at and say, okay, well, we can just say a mission that we're already doing falls into this group. We're trying to do new intentional things to launch 12 unique new discipleship groups coming up over the next 2 years. That's our hope, to get to 12 discipleship groups. So if any of you are praying throughout the week and you're praying for the church and you feel being called towards being in one of those groups or being plugged in, please let me know. You do not have to be a Bible scholar to want to lead one of these groups. You have to be willing to facilitate material, to help lead discussion questions, to make sure that things are organized and people are there. We'll find material for you to go through. Angie and I will make sure that we have that material for you. If you want to do that class, you're interested in starting one, let me know after service today. But I want to just talk about what we're doing or what we're thinking. I want to draw this together with Scripture, this idea of disciples making disciples. And Jesus gives the entire church this mission. And it's in Matthew 28. If you never read the Great Commission, it's in Matthew 28, starting in verse 16, the Great Commission. It says, "Then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. Then Jesus came to them and said, 'All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teach them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age.'" So Jesus has been crucified, he's been resurrected, he's come back to the disciples and he's teaching them. And this is his last mission that he gives them before he's going to go to heaven. And he says, what I want you to do is, I want you to go into all the world and make disciples like yourself. You've seen firsthand, you've lived it. Jesus didn't just teach a Bible study once a month. They were together. They spent time together. They had food together. They saw miracles together. They prayed together. They cast out demons together. They were together. They were a group, a close-knit group, and they were serving the Lord together. There was a family experience that took place with that. They became more than brothers and sisters. There was this connection. And he said, what I want you to do is, now that you've learned how to do this, go and do it. And that's part of what we're focused on. We're going to learn how to do this discipleship thing, and then we're going to go out and do it. We're going to get people who've never been to church before, and we're going to bring them in. And we're going to disciple. We're going to spend time with them. We're going to teach them how to be Christians. In order to do that, we have to be able to do it on our own first. Amen? We have to be able to start out. We have to be able to live a Christian life. We have to be able to be an example. We have to be willing to show them how to do it. Now, he tells them to go into all nations and do it. And his disciples didn't do a good job of that. As a matter of fact, Paul ends up going into more of the Gentile world than any of the disciples do. So we are able to infer this is for the whole church, because Peter really didn't leave Jerusalem very much. John stayed in the area, but he didn't leave very much. James is the first one to be martyred, and they start to die off in various places. And they don't really go into all the world. But Paul and his disciples start to go more into the world, and that's where Christendom comes from. So this is given for more than just these disciples. It's given to the entire church. Jesus wants us to go out and baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. We can say all day long that kids have been saved, they've given their heart to the Lord. We have these little things. We've got the guys coming with the puppets and the magic show, and who wants to accept Jesus, and a whole bunch of them raise their hands, and we write that number down. We got 10 kids who gave their heart to the Lord. But when a real change takes place, you want to be baptized. You want to die to your old life and be brought up a new creation. And so Jesus didn't say, I want you to go out and get people saved. He wants us to go out and baptize them. He wanted to make new creation. We have to be made new. We talked about last week about putting a new patch of cloth on an old garment. It doesn't work. The whole thing has to be new. Because if you put that new patch of cotton on an old cloth garment, when you wash the old garment, the new cloth will shrink and it'll make the tear worse, right? We don't put old wine in new skins, because as the new wine into old skins, because as the new wine ferments and the gases go off, the old wine will burst. We have to be made new. He wants us to be made new, and he wants us to be part of that discipleship group where we are making people new. The goal of our discipleship group, of all of our discipleships that we launch, are to make people new. New strength, a new revival, a new heart. God, take this heart of stone out of us and put in us a heart of flesh. Make us new. Make us different. Change who we really are. Because no one's going to come to church if Ron Osborn is the one who speaks and leads and guides and directs. It's going to fail. But people will come to this new creation where God has changed a person. It's God's heart. It's God's word. It's God's spirit that moves in them. All of you have gifts that God has given you. There is not one person in here that's worthless. There is not one person here that God doesn't have a plan for you. Now, some of you are thinking, well, I want to do discipleship. I don't really want to teach class. Teaching's not one of my gifts. That's cool. We all have different gifts. Let me tell you something. Other gifts are important. One gift that a lot of people have, but they don't use a lot, is encouragement. How many of you have got a letter from someone in the church? Just a thank you letter. How does that make you feel good when you get those? It kind of lifts you up. That's a gift of God. I'm horrible at giving cards. You probably, Angie, we have to give Christmas cards. Like before we were pastors, we never did Christmas cards because we're like super busy. And it's like, to me, a card it's cool, but it's not the most important thing. You know, when I give Angie a gift, I work more on the gift than I do the card. You know, like the card's like the center, like you have to read this as an obligation before you get the gift, right? But some people are really into the cards. The card is the experience. That gift of encouragement is an important gift for the church. People need to be encouraged. There are people here today that are depressed, that are fighting difficult battles, that are going through hard times, and they need someone that can give them a hug, that can encourage them, that can lift them up and say, hey, you can do this. I believe in you. One of the things that Cecil was teaching in the teen class were the love languages, and one of them is words of affirmation, where you tell people. It doesn't have to just be, you don't have to say something in a real nice way, but encouragement can be, hey, what's the matter with you? I know you're capable of doing better. I've seen you perform. What's going on? We can do this together. That is encouragement. That is a gift. We all have different gifts. We all have different talents that God has given us. Some of you might be able to preach. Some of you might be able to teach. Some of you might just be a good host. Maybe some of you can really cook. I'll tell you, there's some people in this church that can really cook. It's good stuff. That's a gift. Some people know how to make and manage money. That's a gift. Rockefeller, when they were starting all of their stuff here in America, he told his wife, I have a gift of making money. We'll never go without, I promise. He made billions of dollars when it would have been a ridiculous idea just to be a millionaire. And they had to change laws and rules so that he wouldn't have monopoly in all these things and have all the money come to him. Some people have those types of gifts. And we need to make sure that we're putting all those gifts in. We all have a talent. And we're going to talk about the parable of talent. And in the Old Testament, talent is just a way of measuring gold or silver coins. In the NIV, it doesn't even say talent, it says bags of gold. This passage can be found in Matthew 25, it can be found in Luke 19. A little different in Luke 19 than Matthew 25. I picked the Matthew 25 passage. But think about it like this. Some people ask, why are the stories slightly different in the New Testament? Why are the same stories that Jesus told slightly different? Well, I don't know. If I had to speak at multiple locations, if I had to go to different congregations, I would use some of the same analogies, but I never tell them exactly the same way, right? Because it's the heart of the story that's important, not all the little details that are in the story. And in both of these stories, the heart of the story is the same. So I'm sure Jesus told the same story at multiple locations with slightly different variations. If you have in your Bible that says talents, that's simply a measurement for gold coins or silver coins. And then in Luke it says, I can't remember the term, like Midas or Minas or something like that. There's also gold coins that we're talking about. In the NIV here, mine calls this bags of gold, because it's not just a coin, it's a unit of coins. It's a measurement for coins. So Matthew 25, chapter 25, verse 14. Again, it'll be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags of gold, and another 1 bag, each according to their abilities. Okay? You all have abilities. You're all part of the body, right? We're all one body with different parts. Isn't that what the Bible says? Some of you are eyes, some of you are ears, some of you are fingers, some of you are toes, someone's the armpit. And we all have to work together, because the arm is really useless without the armpit. Try to move your arm without using your armpit. See how funny that looks. Try to walk without using your knees. We all have to have functions. We all have a part of God's body. We all have different abilities, and God gives based on your ability. So the gifts that you have are what God's willing to use you through. Now, first, I want to make sure that everyone understands that this is works. This is service. This is doing something for the kingdom of God. This has nothing to do with salvation. Okay? It has everything to do with heart. It has everything to do with heart. The end of the story might seem a little confusing because it's all about a heart attitude. Now, for those of you who are advanced students, I want you to think of this. As we're talking about money in this aspect, I want you to think about the prodigal son. Right? In the prodigal son, the prodigal son asked to have his money given to him in advance. Dad, I don't want to wait for you to die. I just want half your stuff now. Okay? I want half it now, and then I'm going to go party, and I'm going to go to every college campus, and I'm going to drink every beer they have. I'm going to squander it and waste it, and then I'm going to become destitute, poor. I wasted everything that I had coming to me. Now, it's the attitude of the prodigal son versus the attitude of this last servant that there's a difference. The prodigal son realizes that he messed up, and he comes back humbly. The last servant in this story, when the story's over, is just like, here it is. This is how it is. Unrepentant. So follow these stories with me. Then he went on a journey. So this is Jesus as the King, the Lord, and then he goes on a journey. Jesus is not here with us right now, right? He's away. He's on a journey. The man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the one who had received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, Jesus has been gone for a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with him. So this is representing the judgment, the accountability. If you look at, you go back to Matthew 24, Jesus is talking all about end times in this passage. And it's one continuous message. We break it up between 24 and 25. Jesus is telling one story about the account of end times. Jesus is going to come back and he's going to say to you, if you call yourself my brother, my sister, my son, my daughter, what have you done with the abilities that I've given you to promote my kingdom? God gave you these abilities not to better yourself, but so other people can learn who Jesus is. God has put those abilities in you so you can help people that are hurting, that you can help people that are sick, you can heal them, you can minister to them, you can encourage them, you can lift them up, you can provide for them in ways, you can give. These are all gifts that God gives us. And one day, Jesus is going to ask you, what have you done for me lately? I felt like that at color time. Like no matter how good we did, the bosses still came to us and said, what have you done for me lately? It didn't matter that a couple of months ago, I was getting a $600 a month bonus check. It was, what have you done for me lately? The cool thing about Jesus is, he's given this in advance, like, a day's coming where I'm going to ask you what you've done with my gifts. Don't squander them. Don't squander them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold bought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. The man with 2 bags of gold also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I have gained you 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew you were a hard man, harvesting where you had not sown and gathering where you had not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. Do you see how it started out? He was afraid. He was afraid to use his gift for God. How many of you have looked at me and said, I want to tell people, but I'm afraid to scare people off about Jesus. I'm afraid they won't react well. I'm afraid that when I share my faith with someone, that it's going to push them away. So I didn't say anything. I didn't encounter them. I didn't try to meet with them because I was afraid. He was afraid, so he hid his talent away in the dirt. So I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sowed, and gathered where I have not scattered seed. This is Jesus talking about the Gentiles. Okay? Everything has been here in Israel, it's been in Jerusalem, it's been for the Jewish people. He's getting ready to expand into the Gentile world. He's letting his disciples know, the disciples who did not do a good job in Matthew 28 of going to the Gentile world. They had a hard time with it, that Peter and Paul end up fighting over these heathen Christians who weren't circumcised. It was all ritualistic. It was all rules. It was all, well, you have to become a Jew before you become a Christian because you need to know how to tie your shoes every day. If you don't know how to tie your shoes the right way, you can't get to heaven. How crazy does that sound? That they were so caught up in the rules, they had to tie your shoes the right way so you get to heaven. It became more rules and less of a heart. God has put a new heart in us. And what he really wants is for people to love him and worship him in truth, regardless of which way you tie your shoes. He knew that he was collecting, harvesting where he had scattered seed. Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I return, I would have received it back with interest. Jesus is saying, at the very least you should have done, if you couldn't put it to work, was go put it in a place where I was going to get a little bit back from it. But you didn't do any of that stuff. You just bury it in the ground. So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be a weeping and a gnashing of teeth. This servant knew that God was going through a very difficult venture. He was trying new things. And he was afraid of that new thing. So instead of being a part of it like the other ones did, all he did was say, okay, I'm just going to give him back what's his. I'm not going to take any responsibility. I'm just going to give him that. I'm playing it safe. I'm going to sit on the bench, and I'm going to wait for the other team to score the points. And when it's done, I'm going to come up and say, I was a good cheerleader. Here's what you gave me back. And God was not happy with that servant. And that servant didn't have the right attitude. They weren't upset that they didn't do more. They didn't feel guilty that they didn't do the things that God had asked them to do. All men fall short of the glory of God. We all do things where we're called in ways that we should, things that we should say that we don't do, people that we should help that we don't. We're afraid to pick up the phone and make that one phone call because we know we're going to be on the phone for 20 minutes with that person. And we don't want to invest our time into it. We let human things get in the way of godly things. I want to read these next two passages. I want to get through Matthew 9, the end of Matthew 9 and Matthew 10, where Jesus is going to send his disciples out while he's still there. So we're backtracking some time here. This is Matthew 9, not 28, 25 anymore. We're going back a little way. Matthew 9, verse 35, the workers are few. Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and healing every disease and sickness. When they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into the harvest field. There are people out here right now that are hurting, that need Jesus. And we're afraid that we're going to hurt their feelings. And maybe we don't have the right approach. Because if our goal is to talk to someone to get them to come to our church, that's the wrong goal. Our goal is to be that Jesus wasn't trying to recruit them and build a club. He wasn't trying to build a church. He was trying to help people who were hurting. Like real people that were really going through difficult times. He was trying to be there for them and show them that there was a better way. If that's our goal, you can't fail. If your goal is to serve God and to go out there and you know someone's hurting and God, I want to help them, then they reject God and not you. They reject God and not you. And we're afraid that we are going to do something. Don't do anything in your own understanding, but do everything in God's understanding. So Jesus is telling him that the harvest is plentiful out there. And I tell you what, there are at least 50% of Swartz Creek that doesn't know Jesus out there today. 50% of them have no idea who he is. And here we are at church talking about what should we do about this 50% of people that don't know Jesus. Matthew 10. Jesus sends out the 12. So after this conversation, he sends it right out. Jesus calls his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out impure spirits and to heal every disease and sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, who was called Peter, and his brother Andrew, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew, the tax collector, James, the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions. Do not go among the Gentiles or any of the towns of the Samaritans. So remember, every time Jesus is talking about his ministry, he always says, first for the Jew, then for the Gentile. It's not time for the Gentiles yet. This parable that we just read, he was starting to prepare them. Now it's time to go into the heathen world where they don't know anything about who I am. And so saying, but this aspect is to rally the Jews first. This was promised to the Jewish people. God is fulfilling his promises that he made to Abraham and to Isaac and to Jacob, that salvation is going to come through the Jewish people. He's honoring that by doing this. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel, and you go proclaim this message. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. Jesus empowered them through the Holy Spirit and said, don't ask for anything in return. Don't ask for anything. That means, all right, I'm going to heal you if you come to my church. Freely was it given to them. Freely were they to give. They weren't to find fault in people. They were to serve a community. They were to serve people. Folks, if you want to serve God, it's got to be freely. If you're trying to get something out of it, if you're trying to earn a crown, if you're trying to earn your salvation, you're going to suffer. You're going to struggle. You're going to have these huge expectations. Oh, I can't keep up with all this. Because that's not. Freely God gave salvation to you. Freely help other people find it. Don't look for anything back. Don't try to get people to come to church so that you can fix your parking lot or your furnaces. Salvation was given to us freely. Help other people find it. Maybe you have other gifts of healing and all these other things that are disciples. If you do that, give freely. Do not get any gold or silver or copper or take with you in your belts. No bag for the journey or extra shirt or sandals or staff, for the worker is worth his keep. We keep trying in our church, board members, I want you to hear this. We keep trying in our church to say, if we have money, we can do ministry. We don't need any of that. He said, don't take gold or silver or copper or an extra shirt. Just go do what I'm telling you to do. You don't have to have a $20,000 budget to see people saved. Live your life the right way. We keep getting stuck on that at this church. Like, we got to have some money, we're going to help people out. No, we don't have to have any money. Go and do. Find the people that God has put in your life. Whatever town or village you enter, search there for some worthy person and stay at their house until you leave. As you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If it is not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet. Here's one of the problems that we have in church today. We're afraid that when we tell people about Jesus, that we are being rejected. That they're not listening to me, they're not listening to what I'm trying to say. And we're afraid of rejection. But I can talk to each one of you one-on-one, and I bet at some point there's a fear of you being rejected by somebody. This has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. That's why Jesus told them, look, don't even waste any time on it. If they don't want to know what you say, clean the dust off your feet. Because it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me. Wipe the dust off your shoes. Don't let it hurt you. Don't let it slow you down. That sometimes salvation is a numbers game. You put it out there, you put it out there. He uses a scattering seeds. Most of the seed fell on rocky soil. It fell in shallow soil. Some of it the birds snatched up. Only one fell in the good soil. But that produced crops. That produced crops. That produced crops. And as we're sharing this seed, you can't be worried about the ones that get away. Focus on the ones that Christ is calling you to reel them in. Truly, I tell you, it will be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. So if they purposely reject Christ, there's a consequence for them doing so. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about them picking on you or laughing at you. Our high school students, I'm sure, can be deeply hurt by the rejection of their beliefs in school these days. It has become very unpopular to be Christian. It's become very popular to have all of these social anxiety disorders. It's become very popular to be part of the transgender, homosexual movement. And so the Christians have that, and then they're told that they're bigots and hateful, even though our kids, you know our kids, they're not bigots or hateful. They don't hate anyone. It's not us who's being rejected, it's God who's being rejected. He says, I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore, be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. Be on your guard. You will be handed over to the local councils and be flogged in the synagogues. On my account, you will be brought before governors and kings as witnesses to them and to the Gentiles. Jesus is saying, let yourself be thrown into prison. Because by being thrown in prison, you're going to talk to the judge and the council members and the governors, and they're going to hear about faith. How many of you trust Jesus enough today to be thrown into jail so that you can tell some judge about who he is? Yeah, we got one hand. One hand. Because we would all be overwhelmed and terrified if we had to be thrown in jail for what we believe. We've gotten so used and so spoiled in today's day and age that God is just going to take care of us without there being any problems. Everything that happens to us happens for a reason. And Jesus is saying, let it happen so that you can be a witness to people who need to hear who I am. But when they arrest you, do not worry about what to say or how to say it. At that time, you will be given what to say. For it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will betray brother to death, and father his child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. You will be hated by everyone because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one place, flee to another. Truly I tell you, you will not finish going through the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. The student is not above the teacher, nor the servant above the master. It is enough for the student to be like their teacher, and servants like their masters. If the head of the house has been called Beelzebub, how much more the members of his household? So do not be afraid of them, for there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the rooftops. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both body and soul in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside of the Father's care. And even the very hairs on your heads are numbered. Some God has to count higher than others. I won't mention any names. So don't be afraid. You are worthy more than many sparrows. If not one sparrow will fall outside of God's will, how much more important are you to him? Don't be afraid. Whoever acknowledges me before others, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever disowns me before others, I will disown before my Father in heaven. Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace to the earth, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. Anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. Anyone who welcomes you welcomes me, and anyone who welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. Whoever welcomes a prophet as a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. Whoever welcomes a righteous person as a righteous person will receive a righteous person's reward. And if anyone gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones, who is my disciples, truly I tell you, that person will certainly not lose their reward. There is a cost to following Christ. It's been a theme for the last several weeks. And part of that cost is that going out to serve is not pleasant, it's not easy. It might not get all the rewards that you hoped, but Jesus said, if you don't take up your cross and follow me, you're not worthy of me. You have to be like me. I sacrificed for you. I gave everything. I gave my life. I gave up eternity. I gave up comfort. I gave up riches. I gave up the fact that people were praying to me and praising me to people spitting on me and mocking me for your sake. If you're not willing to do this for me, you're not worthy of me. Thank the Lord that that's not a prerequisite for salvation. God is trying to motivate us to serve him. Jesus wants you to go out into the world, to not be afraid. To not be afraid of the consequences, not be afraid of what someone will say, not be afraid to be thrown into prison, not be afraid that you're going to be harmed physically. But he wants you to go. And folks, there are people in your families, people at your jobs, at your school, circles of friends, neighbors that need to go to church somewhere, that need to hear about Christ, that need the opportunity to experience that salvation that maybe many of you have experienced. Jesus wants you to be selfless. Selfless with your time. I'm going to get this saying wrong. Did my mic go off? No. Our life is made up of minutes and seconds. And we so often try to find ways to rush through at work, we can't wait for the day to be over with. When we have surgery, we can't wait for it to be over with. We're going to wait in the doctor's office. We can't wait for it to be over with. We're at the Secretary of State. We can't wait for that to be over with. And we rush through aspects of our life so quickly that we lose part of what makes us. The one gift that God has given all of us is time. You all have time. What are you doing with the time that God has given you? Are you serving Him? Are you watching Netflix? Are you serving Him or playing games? Are you serving Him or watching YouTube videos? What is going to be the account for your time? This amazing gift God has given you. What are you doing with your time? Are you using it to serve Him? If we were to judge each and every one of us, and I wanted to tell about you, and if I could get an accurate record of what you did every minute of every day, I could tell you what was really important to you. Well, Pastor Ron spent a lot of time thinking about dinner, eating dinner, thinking about lunch, eating lunch, thinking about breakfast, eating breakfast, thinking about snack, eating snack, talking about shopping. Wow, food must be really important to this guy. I would have never known. Home is where our heart is. If your heart's with God, how much time are you spending with Him and for Him? If your heart's in your recliner at home, how many minutes, how many hours are you logging on that couch today? How many are you logging on that recliner today? I'm going to open the altar up, and I'm going to pray over the prayer requests. And if there's anyone for any reason that wants to come up, if you want to give your heart to the Lord,